Can make their voices heard in just 13 hours when polling locations open across the state. Every General Assembly seat is up for grabs, and the results could signal major changes in the Commonwealth. One of the most talked about issues at hand is abortion.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has pushed for a 15-week abortion ban, and Republican candidates are following suit.
Vote for 15 weeks because that's what I promised people.
Common sense. 15-week limitation.
With restrictions after 15 weeks.
The 15-week is a good compromise.
Democrats across the country have pushed back against the 15-week ban, but if the GOP takes control of both chambers of the General Assembly, experts say a ban is likely. Besides the specific issues, tomorrow's results could mean a lot of changes in how both parties approach elections in Virginia and in the nation as a whole.
Alex Littlehales joins us in the studio now, tackling the idea of what's at stake for both parties tomorrow night, Alex.
Yeah, Janet, Dan, we posed that question to political professor here in Hampton Roads. The idea, what's at stake here in Virginia? He said each party has something different to lose on election night. Between Democrats and Republicans, it's the battle between whether national or hyper-local strategies will help carry their parties over the finish line.
What's at stake for political power in Virginia when each party has something to lose on election night? The outcomes of this November elections are catching national headlines as political experts consider this a precursor to next year's presidential elections. But Dr. A.J. Nolte at Regent University doesn't believe future elections will exactly mirror the outcomes of Tuesday's races. What they offer instead is a glimpse into voter trends down the road. Dr. Nolte believes it's suburban voters who are the demographic both Democratic and Republican candidates are watching closely.
So they're bellwethers for both sides sort of testing out their suburban strategy. Republicans are seeing their local brand with Youngkin is very strong. Democrats are wanting to nationalize this and tie local Virginia Republicans to abortion J 6th, and they are trying to turn out their voters in blue areas, which tells me that they're a little bit concerned about some of the turnout mechanics of this in a low turnout environment.
And a slate of Democratic endorsements this weekend directly from the Biden administration support Dr. Nolte's position that these races are a battle between national versus hyper-local strategies.
When you start talking about the White House, about any endorsements with Obama, that tells me that they're worried about two groups turning out: African Americans and white suburban voters, and sort of white suburban voters that have tended to vote blue in the past.
Democrats are hoping to tie Republicans to national headlines like former President Donald Trump and the fight for abortion access, while Republicans hope the support of Governor Glenn Youngkin carries them into control of both chambers.
Now, Dr. Nolte specifically mentioned the race between Virginia Beach delegate Karen Greenhall and Democratic challenger Michael Fagans as a race that could prove how Democratic voters lean in suburban areas. I'm Alex Littlehales for 13 News Now.
Alex, thanks. If you feel like you've been inundated with negative political commercials this fall, you are not alone. Virginia's Wesleyan University Political Science Associate Professor Leslie Coggles says even though such ads generally tend to make citizens more cynical about government, the campaigns still use them because they work.
People are more likely to remember negative information than positive information when they go to the polls. So those positive campaign ads, most people tune out. Negative campaign ads, people are more likely to watch and people are more likely to remember.
As we are all too well aware right now, during this election cycle, candidates have called their opponents, among other things, criminal, radical, MAGA extremist, and white nationalist.
Voters should keep a few important things in mind while heading out to their polling places tomorrow. If you missed the deadline to register in Virginia, don't file your registration now. Instead, use a provisional ballot on Election Day in person. Polling places open at 6 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. But as long as you're in line by 7, you will be able to vote according to state law. You also need to bring an ID. If you don't, you can sign a statement confirming your identity or use a provisional ballot. If that happens to you, you will need to submit a copy of a valid ID by noon on Friday for your vote to count.